Hello and warm greetings. Welcome to Analyst presented to you by Vajiram and Ravi. Here we discuss 7 articles in 2 different sections consolidating your current affair preparation for UPSC CSE at one place. In the first analysis section, we discuss urbanization and the question of inclusivity. We discuss this in the context of an article appearing in Indian Express reflecting on the issue of urbanization getting political attention. We now present a comprehensive lowdown on the issue of inclusivity in urban areas. Next up, we discuss India, the beautiful tourism sector in India. We discuss this in light of a recent write-up on Indian tourism appearing in The Hindu. It allows for a closer look at the challenges and potential of India's tourism sector. In the next simplified section, we discuss 5 articles with a lot of value addition in light of your prelims 2026, so stay tuned. Starting with the first topic, urbanization and the question of inclusivity. We discuss this in light of a recent write-up that has appeared in the Indian Express, where the writer is taking up the issue of inclusivity in the urban areas because of the policy of urbanization that has been working. We discuss this in light of our syllabus point of view, GS paper 1 in society. They cover the topic of urbanization and its associated issue. Not just from the syllabus, it is a favorite topic of UPSC because for the past 2 years they have been asking questions on the inclusivity aspect of urbanization. They are two similar questions, but there is a little difference between both of them. In the 2023 question, they asked that does urbanization lead to more segregation or marginalization of the poor in the Indian metropolis? Next year, after a gap of 1 year, they asked that how does smart city in India address the issue of urban poverty and distributive justice? One, they are asking us the problem, whether there is a problem of segregation, whether there is a marginalization of poor in the urban areas. Next up, they ask that whatever solutions the government has taken, has they been working up? So we need to understand this topic of urbanization, its problem, its solution, the steps that have been taken, what more can be done in a comprehensive manner, and that is precisely what we are going to do right now. First up, what is urbanization? As per World Bank, urbanization is a phenomena where more and more people are moving to live in the cities. In Indian government's perspective, they define urbanization, they define an urban area as an area which is having more than a population of 5,000 people. At least 75% of those people should be engaged in non-agricultural activities. That means they might be having businesses, or they might be working in factories, or they might be providing some services. Basically non-agriculture activities, 75% of them should be engaged there. And overall the population density of that area, of that town that we are talking about, it should be more than 400 people. Once these conditions are fulfilled, the government notifies them as a census town, that this could be a town as per the government record. Even if some areas of India, even if they are not fulfilling these criteria fully, even then the government may notify them as towns. So these would become the notified towns. So this is a basic definition of urbanization in India. As per the census 2011, the rate of urbanization in India is 31.17%. At least around 31% of the population of India currently is residing in the urban areas. At the time of independence, it used to be only around 11 to 12%. So we have come a long way. But still we are way below the global average. As per the World Bank's data, around 55% of the global population is actually living in the urban areas. So there is still much more way to go. But why is it so important? It is because it is the primary driver of economic growth. If we see that cities in India contribute 60% of the GDP of India, despite they only occupying 3% of the total space. If we talk about the global perspective, Indian cities per se, Indian cities have the habitation, they provide habitat to 11% of the global population, 11% of all the global population that live in the cities that live in India. Not only this, they have been serving as a center of eminence in various facilities, in various fields, whether it is medical field, whether it is educational sector, all of them attract the people from various regions, and this is showcased in the data of migration in India. If we see that from rural to urban areas, 18.9% of the people, they migrate from rural to urban areas because of certain push and pull factors. Push factors like the issue of floods or issue of any disaster occurring there, push factor like caste-based segregation, these force them to move to cities. But more importantly, the pull factors, the opportunities of having to work in a better sector, having to earn more money, having to get access to health and education facilities, these are the things that attract people. And that is for the same reason that if you see the major institution of eminence, for example IITs, IIMs, AIMS of our country, they are located in the urban areas that attract a lot of people. You also see that it is also proving, despite even above these economic roles, it play a role of acculturation. What does that mean? It allows people to get accustomed to new things, accustomed to new culture. They would be losing their parochial ideologies that would have prevailed in their villages. They would be moving beyond the conservative mindset. They would be opening up to newer phenomena, newer ideologies. This is the same reason that cities emerge as a center of cosmopolitan cultures. It is for the same reason that you see that in a city like Delhi, we also celebrate the festival of Durga Puja, we also celebrate the festival of Garba, both of them which belong to the eastern and the western part of India respectively, but we celebrate them in the northern India because people of different stream, people of different culture merge at one place and there is a cultural exchange that takes place. It is for these reasons that urban spaces becomes very imperatively important for our country, and this is also showcasing in the economic aspect of leading to a greater standard of life. If you see the data, average monthly per capita expenditure in rural India is around 4100 rupees, whereas we compare it to the urban areas, it is around 7000 or 6996 rupees. This is the average difference between the amount of money that a person in rural area versus a person in urban area could be expected to spend. This showcases that there is a more likelihood of money being available in the people's hand in urban areas. And not just today, there is also hope for the future. As we discussed that India is only having 31% of its population living in urban areas, there is a hope as per UN Habitat report that urban population of India would cross the 50% mark by 2050. By this year, at least half of our population would be living in the urban areas. And this is a situation that has been developing. Government has been very cognizant of it. They know that this is the growth driver of the present as well as the growth driver of the future. So they have taken certain steps. And this is precisely why we are discussing this today. The article starts with the comparison of this JNRURM mission, Jawaharlal Nehru National Urban Rejuvenation Mission. In December 2025, this program completed 20 years of anniversary. And while it was true, it had actually given way because it was replaced by Amrit Mission and Smart Cities Mission in the year 2015. The features of this program, which was initially started for 7 years, wanted to target the redevelopment of urban infrastructure. They focused majorly on the urban transportation. If you would have been living in the cities in the past, you would have seen some buses. On the back side of those buses, it was written JNNURM. People used to call them Janaram, but the actual name was Jawaharlal Nehru National Urban Rejuvenation Mission. This has given way to these two schemes, which are Amrit Mission and Smart City Mission. What they want to do, if we talk about Smart City, they have actually targeted and selected 100 cities which would be redeveloped in 2 phases. There are two available method of redevelopment. One is where some area-based development would be done. A certain area would be earmarked by the city, and they would redevelop that area either in a greenfield format or by retrofitting them. Retrofitting means not destroying the existing infrastructure but adding up to it, adding some more features there, adding some more layers of integration of infrastructure there. Other approach is a city-wide plan where pan-city projects would be developed. A whole new road connecting one part of the city to another part of the city would be developed. This would be the pan-area approach that is taken under this Smart City Mission. It is not just a central mission because certain states, for example, state of Uttar Pradesh, the union government actually selected 100 cities. The government of Uttar Pradesh actually added 7 more cities from their end, and total number of cities in Uttar Pradesh which is under the part of Smart City project has gone up to 17. So some state level initiative is also targeting the growth of urban areas in this matter. Next up is Amrit Mission, which is Atal Mission for Rejuvenation and Urban Transformation. It is targeting a water-based approach, enhancing water supply for the people, enhancing drinking water availability in sync with the mission of Jal Jeevan Mission. Also targeting the green development of cities by promoting the non-motorized urban transport so that pollution could also be tackled. So these are some of the missions that the government is taking to tackle the problem of urban areas. But if you see that the political focus has shifted to urban areas, that is showcased in the cognizance of the government by launching such scheme. But still there are a lot of challenges that are persisting in our urban areas. Why do we say that political shift has taken place? Because if you remember the very famous quote of Mahatma Gandhi, they said that India lives in its villages. It was true for that time period when 11% of our people lived only in the urban areas and 89% of the people lived in the villages. But now that we have seen that one third of the population is currently living in the cities, and by 2015 50% of the population would live, it makes all the more reasons to shift the focus, shift the attention towards the urban areas. But whatever the government has been doing is considered at max a piecemeal approach. They have targeted certain sections but not taken the issue into cognizance of exclusion in urban areas. Why we say that there is a probability of exclusion? Although we discussed in the first slides that it has led to rising in the living standard of the people, they have more access to schools, hospital, education sectors. There in the urban areas, we saw rising per capita expenditure in urban areas is more than the rural areas. But then exclusion is a wide reality. It's a well-known reality, and that is why UPSC asked that question. Why it is happening? Because if you see the challenges in the urban areas, there is a first challenge of overcrowding. Cities are being filled with people. If you see Delhi, the population has crossed more than 2 crore, and it has grown at such a high and rapid pace that people are not finding enough space to live. There is this housing shortage as per the Mahua report, which is Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs report of 2018. At least 20 million units are more required in the urban areas of India. What has this led to in the present circumstances? It has led to creation of something known as slum, which is basically a very congested place where people live in very unsanitary, unhygienic conditions, which coexist with this urban elite infrastructure. This is the skyline of Mumbai, and this is the slum of Dharavi, which is world's largest slum. Now, as per the census 2011, 17% of the population of urban areas, they live in these slums. It has led to creation of a vicious cycle where these people who tend to live in the slum, they never get out of it. Why? Because of their living in such circumstances, in such infrastructure, they are more prone to diseases. They do not have enough access to healthcare infrastructure because there are none such created for them. Then because of this, their human development index does not work very well. They lose the nutrition, whatever they have, whatever they are able to afford. Even that is not absorbed well because of unsanitary condition. Because they live in certain environment, there are more challenges of crime, law and order there. It leads to something known as culture of poverty that is created, because these people now get used to this culture and they never get to come out of this vicious cycle of poverty. And this leads to perpetuation of exclusion of the people in these urban areas. In cities like Mumbai, in cities like Delhi, it is a widely known reality. Now, apart from this, there is the environmental challenges that is existing now. We have issue of pollution. As per WHO, at least 21 of the 40 world's most polluted cities are located in India. Delhi has always been ranking 1, and even some certain other cities of India are also ranking very high in air pollution index. Not just air, we have also seen the news of uranium being filtered in our water. We are having issue of pollution of water also. So that has impacted all the resources of our country. And if that was not enough, we recently saw the protest against conservation of these resources. For example, protest against the Aravali, because they are now supposed to be cut down in the region around Delhi so that more apartments, more buildings could be created. This would reduce the last natural barrier against the sandstorm that protect the Delhi. So these are the issues that the cities are now facing because of this over expansion that is promoted, that is sought to fulfill the space need for this overcrowded cities. We also have the issue of infrastructure bottleneck also. Because of the lack of infrastructure that is available for housing, there are other sort of infrastructure that is required in the urban cities. People don't have access to enough toilets, lack of existing road infrastructure, that leads to creation of certain jams or maha jams that are created in cities like Bangalore. They are notorious for their traffic jam. It leads to reduction of productivity of the workforce as well. Thus, these bottlenecks do not let the potential of the cities to be realized. We see flooding, urban flooding, that is a common phenomena that often falls. Cities like Gurgaon, cities like Chennai, they often fall victim of it. Every monsoon we see such drains being filled out. Then all of these contribute to the issue of inequality. We see India as a very unequal country because as per the Thomas Piketty report, only around 10% of the people have access to 57% of the wealth. There is a wide chasm that is existing between the haves and the have-nots. People who are on the other side of the road, who do not have it, they also tend to expand their means by engaging in certain crimes. As per the NCRB report, we saw that the crime in urban cities, major Indian urban centers, is rising. They have risen by 10% at least in the past year. There has been a total of 9.5 lakh cases of crime that have been registered. And it is not just singular cases. The cases of crime registered against certain section, for example, women. Because of these lack of infrastructure, because of this rise in crime, the safety of women makes them excluded from the inclusive urban spaces. Thus, the cities are not even inclusive for even the richer person of the society. We are not just talking about the poor being excluded, but various sections of the society being excluded. Because of this lack of infrastructure, we see that people with disabilities, they are excluded from accessing the public spaces. Because of this rise of crimes, we see that people like women, the sections like women, they are excluded from accessing public spaces after dark because we do not have enough street lamps. Then we have the issue of question on sustainability. Even if the urban areas are being told as the harbinger of the growth, they are not sustainable anymore. Because if you know that Jakarta, which is the capital of Indonesia, it is the world's largest city. It has a population of more than 4 crore. But now it is on the verge of getting extinct because it is now under the threat of sea level rise, and the nation of Indonesia has been trying to shift its capital away from Jakarta to a city called Nusantara. So all the economic growth, all the improvement would mean nothing if it is not inclusive in nature. That is the idea of the challenges in urban areas. But why are these existing? As per the writer of this article, there is an issue of political privatization of market-led development that is one of the causes of this issue. They say that now the government has moved away from the Nehruvian era of where dams and heavy industry were making the major headlines, which were displacing a lot of tribals and farmer people. Now even if that is not happening, what they are leading is they are focusing just on creation of highways, creation of cities that are serving as a model of attracting capital. So it is a capital attracting led model. When that is happening, it is excluding certain peoples out of the cities. This is causing the issue of exclusion. This is one of the reason of the issue of challenges of exclusion that we are seeing in urban areas. But there are others as well. If we see that there is a lack of planning. As per the report of Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs, 65% of the 7,900 urban centers that we have, they are unplanned in nature. So there is a problem of urban sprawl. We need more spaces. People are moving to the cities. So colonies are being cut without authorization. So they lack the basic infrastructure that is required. There is no such grid pattern that could be seen there. They are haphazardly created, and it leads to creation of traffic jams and creates bottleneck in infrastructure. We have issue of urban apathy also. While they may argue that it is a political privatization of market-led model, it is also true that people in urban areas are very less concerned about the politics. Because if you see the data, in the last Delhi Lok Sabha election that happened in Delhi, people of Delhi, only 57% of them came out of their house to vote. And you compare that to a very remote location in Bihar's northeastern region of Bihar, the districts like Kishanganj, the district like Purnia, they reported at least 87% of people being voting. We can only expect that people of Delhi would be more educated than the people of Bihar, because that is shown in the literacy rate. But it is quite the opposite when it comes to voting. So people are not voting for the issues that they want to be raised, so they are getting what they deserve now. Now, other structural issues that exist, because there is a lack of decentralization in the urban governance. We see that 74th constitutional amendment provided for urban local bodies, but they are not empowered. They lack funds because only 30% of their fund, 30 to 35% of their funds come from their own resources. And even if they come, majority of them lack diversification because they majorly come from the land and property taxes. They contribute majorly to these funds, and even these are not realized to the maximum extent. Only 0.25% of the GSDP of the states is derived from the property tax. If you compare to the OECD countries, at least 1% of their GSDP is derived from the property tax. So they lack the funding, they lack the functionary, they lack the functions also, because they have not been devolved certain functions as per the 12th schedule. They have not been devolved as many functions to work with. The mayors, the elected representative of these urban local bodies, they are not also empowered. They are being suppressed with the heavy governance with a centralized governance model where officers, in fact IAS officer and state PCS officers, are given more functions than given to a mayor. This has led to a issue of implementation of the schemes that are promoted by the government. We saw the smart city is a valid initiative, but it is also not being implemented to the fullest extent because there is a structural issue there. The smart city is being implemented by a special purpose vehicle. It is not implemented by the urban local bodies, for example, Municipal Corporation of Delhi. It is not. This special purpose vehicle, what do they have? They are very administrative heavy. They have more prominence of officials from the government rather than elected representative. So they are not able to get to the nerve of the issue. They are not having access to the public voices which a representative would have. These are contributing to the existence of the state of urban areas that we have today. How do we go about it then? How do we make India more resilient and sustainable urban India? We can do that by first starting with the investment. As per the World Bank report, at least $840 billion worth of money is required to be pumped into the Indian city by the year 2036 to give them the basic infrastructure that is required for sustaining an urban area. Then we need a satellite city plan to decongest the cities that we have right now. Some cities should be created outside in the near vicinity of these cities. For example, Delhi, we can have certain cities like Hisar in the neighborhood, cities like Gurgaon, cities like Rewari. In the neighborhood of one city, we can create certain satellite city which would act as a counter magnet. People who are coming from the other remote regions, they should not throng this city only. They should also move to the other satellite cities also. That is the idea. We can also have organic but planned redevelopment of the cities. Cities as are expanding over the time period. This was the earlier expanse of Delhi. It is being expanded to in various directions, and the hinterland that exists outside these urban areas, they must be developed in the same manner that there is certain degree of planning there. Hauz Khas village was actually a village in Delhi. Now you see that it has emerged to be a market. It is one of the most fanciest place for a restaurant. We can have certain degree of planning in the redevelopment of these places also. The villages of Shahpur Jat, the villages of Hauz Khas, these can serve as a model example for having planned redevelopment of the villages around the vicinities of these urban areas. Also, we can take some cues from the global example. For example, this Ban Mekong project from Thailand. In Thailand also we used to have the problem of slum. So instead of just replicating, just evicting these people of slum from those areas, the Thailand government took the idea of Ban Mekong, which is secure housing. It means secure housing in Thai language. It led to a community-led initiative where their consent was sought for this in situ slum redevelopment. That means on the site, the slum was redeveloped. Only when the people residing in the slum, they gave their consent. So it was not a top-down approach, but a bottom-up approach that proved very successful. And the world over, people are learning from this approach of Thailand. This is what we can learn from there. In our Indian perspective, we can have redevelopment of our Indian cities by empowering our urban local bodies, by utilizing these articles that are given in our constitution. Article 243X, which provides more funding power to them. They must be given more authority to levy taxes. And then the powers and responsibility must be devolved more. Then we can have a political empowerment of urban governance by ensuring the letter and spirit implementation of these acts. Then we have participatory leadership. As per the UN Habitat report, which is known as Cities Alive report, we need more women leaders as the urban local body leaders. We have seen example of Chavi Rajawat, who worked wonderfully as a sarpanch of a village. When they can work so wonderfully in improving governance in the rural areas, imagine what they can do in urban areas. That is the idea that we are emphasizing. And we want to make the cities inclusive of all the sections, not just for the habitats, not just for the people who live, but the people who rule there. Also for the people who live, we want certain social movements that can rise. There is a campaign of Why Loiter that is running. Why loiter means that women should not be questioned that why are they occupying the public spaces. They should start being more visible in the public space. That would make these public space more inviting for other women to join. They should not be questioned on their choice of staying in the public space. This is a movement that is expanding across the world. In Pakistan, they have this movement called Girls at Dhabas. Dhabas, which are basically the highway joints, food joint where truckers mostly have food. We want more girls to be visible at such public places to make the urban areas more women friendly, more inclusive of all the sections of the society. We can have environment at the center when we do such redevelopment project. We can have taken up the approach of Miyawaki forest to redevelop urban areas with forestry, with environment resources at the center of this stage. If we do this, we are going to be able to build a very resilient and inclusive India, urban India, which is having center of it, environment at the center of it. It would having all the sections of the society, the PWDs, the poor, the women, all of them being a part and the parcel of the urban India that we want to build by 2047. This was it in this topic. We have this practice question for you. Kindly attempt it. Moving to the next topic, we have India, the beautiful tourism sector in India. India the beautiful, but first India the functional. This is the title. This is the title of the article that is written by Honorable Shashi Tharoor that has appeared in today's The Hindu. It is catering to two aspects of our syllabus: GS paper 2, where government intervention in various sectors, including tourism, is a part of our syllabus, and GS paper 3, service sector, because this is going to create a lot of jobs for India. We are discussing this not in just from the perspective of our syllabus, but also a lot of previous questions that have indirectly taken a shape which could be answered by the content that we would discuss today. They have asked question that where will the jobs that India desperately needs come from? They could come from the tourism sector, and we'll see how. They could also ask us that soft power, how soft power like sports and cultural exchange could help shape international relations with certain countries. Tourism is one of the major soft power, so we could use its content there. We also see the limit ecological carrying capacity and the sustainable development limit to the overpopulated tourism that has been hampering the development of Jammu Kashmir, Himachal Pradesh and other such states. So we take a look at those issues as well to be able to develop a sustainable tourism strategy. Starting from this, but why are we discussing this today? Because there is a conundrum that exists in India's tourism sector today. We as a country, India as a country, has a lot to offer, from the white snowy peaks of Kashmir to the blue waters of Kerala, from the green forest of Meghalaya to the brown deserts of Rajasthan. Not just this, the history of our ancient architectural sculptures and caves that are present in across our country, and the new urbanizing India that we just discussed, which is showcasing the IT field as well as becoming the new Silicon Valley of South Asia. Despite all of this, we have a conundrum that is existing because it does not reflect in the numbers. If we compare our number of tourism sector, we only invited 56 lakh of foreign visitors. Only 56 lakh foreign visitors visited India till the August 2025. If we compare that number to Singapore, which is just half the size of Delhi, they expected 116 lakh people visiting, 116 foreign tourists visiting them. It is twice that number in a country which is very minuscule compared to the size of India. The whole area of Singapore is barely 740 kilometers square. If we compare India for that instance, India is 3.28 million square kilometer in total area. If we talk about the numbers in GDP, if we see that in terms of the foreign exchange earning, India earned only around 17.6 billion in the year 2022 from the earning from the tourists that arrived in India. Compare that number to the Thailand, and they earned $60 billion, thrice of our size. Not just this, even Indians are discriminating against India. If we see the inbound versus outbound numbers, at least 16.5 lakh visitors visited India and 84.4 lakh Indians, they visited abroad. This is because people of India are more importantly being influenced by the idea of Bollywood, where they are now flocking Maldives as the new favorite destination of Bollywood. Now they are following their footsteps, and now they are going to Maldives for honeymoon or going to Switzerland for film shooting. This is a trend that has caught up with the middle class Indians or the upper middle class Indians, but most of them, they are not prioritizing India as a tourist country, and even foreigners are not visiting India as we compare them with the other numbers. But of those who visit India, why do they visit? At least 10% of them visit for business and professional reasons. At least 36% of them only visited for the leisure or recreational activity, basically which is classified as a tourism. Then 7% of them visit for the medical tourism, which is a niche sector that is developing off late in India. At least 20% of the people, 21% of them who visit India as a foreign tourist, they are basically Indian diaspora only. Our NRIs who live in UAE, USA, Canada, those peoples, they contribute a major chunk of the foreign tourists that that visit India. So the numbers are even starker than they reflect. But of the people that visit India, where do they come from? If we talk about the numbers, at least 20% of them come from the very neighboring country of Bangladesh. And there might be some other reasons for why they are coming to India, not just for the tourism. The other major leader is USA. Also around 20% of the foreign tourists that come to India are from USA. Other nations like UK, Canada and Australia are the major contributor to the foreign tourist arrival in India. But if we see the GDP contribution, as per the government report, at least 15.73 lakh crore rupees is the total tourism revenue generated from the tourism industry in India. But why is this number so huge? This is so huge because they are now covering the domestic tourists also. The people who are staying in India, living in India, moving to another state of India, they are now counted as tourists. If they would be counted, the number would be very huge. If you count this in number of crores, it is like 176 crore people were the domestic tourists when the population of India was only 140 crore. So you get the irony here. Now, it is despite these numbers which are not satisfactory, they are still contributing around 5% to India's GDP. And they are also a major creator of jobs. If you were to see the government data, it has actually provided 36.9 million direct jobs to Indian, around 37 million direct jobs and 48 million indirect job has been created due to this tourism sector, contributed both by foreign tourists as well as domestic tourists. If we talk about the state which are preferred by these tourists, for the domestic tourist, UP, Uttar Pradesh and Tamil Nadu are basically the two states that are promoted, that are first in the order of these ranking of the states. For the foreign visitor, they prioritize Gujarat and Maharashtra more. This is the tourism sector, the data, the fact of the matter that we have discussed, that where does India stand in the global tourism chart. As per the various reports, India is not even the top 10 country in the global tourist chart. Around 1.5% of all the people who visit foreign countries, only 1.5% of them visit India, which showcases there is a huge potential that India can serve. As we discussed in the initial phases, that we have such a lot of things to offer to us, offer to the world, but they are not visiting us to get a taste of it. But why is so? If you understand the reason or the root cause of the problem, it is not that tourism is a product that we could sell. Oh, see, we have a Taj Mahal, please buy it. We cannot sell it also. What are we selling now? We can only sell the experience, and experience has not been very pleasant for them. Why? Because there is something, an issue of SMS there. It is not seamless, it is not very memorable, and it is not very safe, is what people perceive of India. These are some of the root causes of the problem. If we discuss it in detail, India has an infrastructural deficit. We just discussed in the previous section that India needs at least $840 billion worth of infrastructure boost to help the last mile connectivity in urban areas. We have major airports. We have India's Indira Gandhi airport is one of the best in its field, in the size that it competes. But there is lack of last mile connectivity. Your best hotel room doesn't matter if the roads outside your hotel room are having potholes. There is a governance and coordination gaps. As a subject, tourism is not even mentioned in the 7th schedule. So we do not have it classified in the subject list of state or concurrent or the union. But because it is not mentioned, it becomes naturally the part of the residuary list under the power of the center. But if you see the pilgrimage, it is mentioned under the state list. It leads to a lot of coordination gap. This national policy is been created. Certain states implement it, certain states don't implement it, and that leads to coordination gap, which lead to fragmented planning and weaker center state execution of the policies of the tourism. If we see the skill and the service quality issue, we see that people take up job of tourist guide in India as a fallback option. They do not do it with a lot of passion. There is an issue of lack of standardization in the quality. People are now faced with the issue of harassment at the hand of these untrained people. There is a lot of issue of mistrust that exists because there are a lot of fake travel sites that exist. There are a lot of fake scam these people, the foreigners who visit a very alien country with a lot of language barrier. They are not very equipped to handle the diverse need of people coming from various countries. And this also creates a safety and perception concern. They consider India as a country which is not safe for women. We saw harassment of Brazilian biker group that happened in Jharkhand. There is this girl from Korea who actually had to put up a video on YouTube where she said that I hate India because of the experience she had in India. And these are very real concerns. We discussed just now in the previous section that there is a program of women at dhaba, girls at dhaba as a campaign that was being promoted to make public spaces more inclusive for women. And today only we discussed that right now in last night we saw one girl was raped in one of the dhabas in Bahadurgarh, which is very near to Delhi, 20 kilometers away from Delhi. If that is the situation in national capital, how can we expect foreign tourists, especially the female foreign tourists, to visit India? This is one of the major drivers against India. If we talk about the limited marketing and product diversity, we only showcase the products that are well known to the world. Go to Goa if you want to party, go to Manali if you want to see snow. There is lack of promotion of diverse opportunity that India has to offer. And this has led to creation of an image that India, although a budget destination, has become very unaffordable for the people. People are now giving up Goa to move to Bangkok because it is now turning to be more value for money, because at least the expensive hotels are comparatively more value for money in those countries of Southeast Asia compared to India. There is a better infrastructure availability. They find the experience more rejuvenating to their interest. So if we were to summarize the problem why tourism is not expanding in India, we could have it summarized in the 3 I's. The I of the problem is 3 I's. One is the image of India. Image of India as a country which is very unsanitary, unhygienic. Image of infrastructure, issue of infrastructure, because there is a lot of infrastructure deficit. There is lack of last mile connectivity. There is issue of internet connectivity. There is issue of safe spaces. Then the issue of India as a place, because of these negative instances that have happened with a lot of people, that India is only good for certain few destinations. The whole potential of India is not being realized. Then what can we do about it? There are a lot of steps that the government has already taken. They have taken the Prasad scheme for pilgrimage rejuvenation, which is pilgrimage rejuvenation, spiritual heritage augmentation drive. They have Swadesh Darshan scheme, Dekho Apna Desh scheme, various cultural exchange programs that are working. Various infrastructure related steps have been taken. Under Udan scheme, they have improved the regional connectivity by opening various new airports. Even the Vande Bharat trains has enhanced the experience of traveling in a seamless manner, in a fast manner. Rapid connectivity to the cities has happened. Even niche services have been now being provided under the Palace on Wheels, which attract a lot of foreign tourists also. But these are not enough, clearly, as we have shown that these have not reflected in the numbers. If we talk about the suggestion to make India more appealable, we can start with marketing the niche, the sectors which are not explored. We can even start Buddhist circuit, the Ramayana circuit, or even the cricket circuit, because we have one of the best cricket grounds in the world. We can have the Chel cricket stadium, which is one of the highest stadium located in the world. We have the Dharamshala, which provides a very picturesque backdrop to the cricket that we have. Not just cricket, the idea is emphasizing the various niche sector. We can have Ayurveda or wellness based tourism that could happen in India. Yoga as one of the center of tourism, especially in the locations like Rishikesh and Kerala. Then we can have newer promotions. The Incredible India story has worked, but now it is time to change, because India is not one nation. It is a kaleidoscopic experience that one could have. There is a wide variety that we need to showcase to the people of world. We can have newer taglines, for example, Incredible India's experience the infinite. There are infinite opportunities that exist in India's tourism that remain to be explored by the people. We can have involvement of local and creation of decentralized tourism. As we discussed that we have gone off the beaten track. Only the certain locations are thronged by the people, but there are other less explored places have more to offer. We can have places like Munsiari that could be redeveloped by involving local, Munsiari in Uttarakhand instead of Mussoorie in Uttarakhand, where local people, where their homestays could be utilized instead of creation of a newer infrastructure of hotels and resort, which turns out to be very unsustainable in the long run, because it impacts the fragile ecology of those mountainous region. So involving locals and creation of these decentralized tourism would make this tourism sector very sustainable in the longer run. Then we can have standardization of the service sector. If the certain people are going to provide services, they should follow certain norms. Government has taken steps where they have provided certain guidelines for even the homestays. They can have certain guidelines for tourist guides also, where they take it after a very professional course they have completed, that they should be able to have the ability to speak various languages fluently and cater to the various demands of the diverse foreign tourists that arrive in India. We can bridge our infrastructure gap, as was suggested in the World Bank report, that we need at least $840 billion worth of investment, and this should come from the PPP model. We have the Adopta Dharohar scheme, by which people and the companies, they are taking up the initiative through their CSR funding. They are adopting a heritage structure and taking care of the maintenance and upkeep of those monuments. We must have tourism friendly immigration policy. The immigration policy should allow for visa on arrival to most of the nation, so that the process become very seamless for the people just to get a passport and enter India by various number of airports that we have. By improvement of this regional connectivity scheme, by improvement of the last mile connectivity scheme, they should be able to reach the place that they want to reach in a no time. Then we should have this sustainable tourism by integrating all of them, making it more environmental friendly, making it more people's friendly, because if lot of peoples are being employed there, they would have a natural skin in the game. They would be supporting the tourism sector in a trust based manner. They would avoid the scams and the frauds that are committed against the foreigners. This is very imperative for us to do, because the world is waiting. India, which has to offer the history of Egypt, the natural beauty of New Zealand, we have a lot to offer to the world. But unless we refine ourselves, we don't need to redefine, but we need to refine our country, so that the people would want to come to India and perhaps stay. That was it in this discussion. Let's move to the next topic. We have a practice question for you. Kindly write it and get it evaluated from your mentors. First day of the budget session, Honorable President has addressed both the houses. This become the presidential address. This is important from our present perspective, because it is a constitutional mandate for the president to address the first inaugural session after every Lok Sabha election, as well as the first budget session, which is the first session of every year. Under Article 87, it is an address which is given to the joint sitting of both the houses. It is done by the president. Also, the governor of the states also addresses both the houses under Article 176. Now, what is this address? It is basically not the president's personal views. She does not go there and tells whatever she feels like saying. It is basically a reflection of the policies and programs of the Council of Ministers. So it is just the minister and the government that prepares the presidential address, and Honorable President only says whatever the government wants her or him to say. It is drafted by the ministers, it is approved by the cabinet. Once it is done, once she has addressed the parliament, during the whole budget session, they would discuss the address of the president. The opposition member might criticize it, but it has to be summed up by a motion of thanks. If the motion of thanks is passed, it is good. If it is not passed, it is reflected as a failure of the government. It is as serious an issue as a non-confidence motion being passed by the government against the government. It may even lead to fall of the government. Now, in this particular presidential address, she has emphasized on the recent development that has been happening by the government. She has congratulated Indians for the India-EU FTA that just concluded. She has congratulated Indians on the recent taxation reforms, the GST rationalization, the reduction of income tax limit to 12 lakhs, where the people up to 12 lakh income have been exempted. Apart from that, she has mentioned two very famous personalities from history of India. First is Mr. Thiruvalluvar, poet Saint Thiruvalluvar, where she has taken some quote from his work, from his writings, to emphasize the nature of hard work that is required, because everybody is dependent on the arduous labor that a farmer does. So Thirukarul is the name of the book, which basically means in Tamil sacred couplets. Sacred couplets. Kurul is basically the word which is used for verses, and Thiru is a Tamil honorable word which means anything that is sacred in nature, that is honorable in nature. So you could even see people writing in front of their name, instead of writing Mr. they write Thiru MK Stalin. That's how it goes. So Thirukural means sacred verses written by the same person, Thiruvalluvar. So the person who is very sacred, Valluvar, Thiruvalluvar is the person who is believed to be living in 2nd century BC to 5th century CE. We are not very sure of the exact time period. It is not mentioned in the history. It is not very clear. But nonetheless, this Tamil text is a foundational classical Tamil text which talks a lot about the morality of the society, morality in the period of the Sangam age that we discuss in our history books. It also mentions about the ideas of love, governance, ethics, spirituality. This is the component, this is the nature of that book. And it is also talking about the impact, the role of farmer in the society. Apart from that, Honorable Prime Minister also reflected on the role of Sri Narayan Guru from Kerala. She took the message of Sri Narayan Guru. Who is Mr. Sri Narayan Guru? He was actually a social philosopher, a social reformer from the state of Kerala. He belonged to Izhava caste, but it was a caste against which a lot of discrimination was being done in Kerala at that time. So he took it on his own hand and he gave the message of one caste, one religion, one God for mankind. That promoted that there must be no discrimination on the basis of religion, there must be no discrimination on the basis of God or the caste that a person belonged to. So he was the leader of this South Indian anti-caste movements. On the other hand, his followers, Mr. Sahodaran Ayyappan, who was the follower of Sri Narayan Guru, he actually changed this quotation of one caste, one religion, one God for humankind to absolutely negative of it, which is no caste, no God, no religion for mankind. Nonetheless, his other important works was that he started what came to be known as Arivipuram movement. Arivipuram movement is basically a movement where this person, Mr. Narayan Guru, he consecrated a Shiva temple in Kerala, in this village, in this town of Aruvipuram. So it came to be known as Aruvipuram movement. Also, he was a participant of the very famous Vaikom Satyagraha, which was basically a temple entry movement for giving entry to the so-called lower caste of the society. The followers of Sri Narayan Guru established the Sri Narayan Guru Dharma Paripalana Yogam, the Dharma Paripalana Sabha in Kerala of that time. It is he's a very renowned figure of the modern Indian history. Questions on the personality based issues have come in the prelims, so kindly keep this in mind. Before we move to the next topic, on the one hand, we just discussed the presidential issue. There is also the issue where the president or the governor might not even speak whatever the government want them to speak. Here in case of Karnataka, also in case of Tamil Nadu, what is happening is the governor is belonging to another party apparently, and the government at the state level is of another party. So the political differences lead to issues where the presidential address or actually the governor address does not carefully read all the sections, all the pages that the government is giving them. So they are deliberately skipping certain pages. For example, Karnataka Governor Mr. Thawarchand Gehlot is likely to skip the paragraph on the VBG Ramji Act, which is trying to criticize the act which is brought by the central government. And this was also done in case of Tamil Nadu, where Mr. Ravi actually skipped certain paragraphs when it was not in consonance with the ideology that he was following. So that is also a political nature of development that is happening regarding this presidential address and the governor address. This makes it very imperative for us for this prelims 2026 that we must know the article that is related to this presidential and governor address. Moving to the next topic, Rajasthan governor has returned the bill seeking to curb honor killings. Why this has happened? What is it related to? Honor killing is basically a killing. It's an extreme form of violence, typically a murder, which is committed by the family member or known person of a community member, mostly against a woman who is perceived to have brought upon the dishonor because on a family or clan or community because of her choices also relating to but not limited to marriage, but also other activities as well. So this is why it is known as honor killing, because it is perceivably depriving the society, the community, the family of their honor. It is basically a misnomer. As per Tamil Nadu government, it should rather be called as a shame killing. There is no honor in killing is what we are trying to portray here, because if you are killing a person just for exercising their right, it does not amount to a very honorable act to do per se. Now the act was proposed by the Rajasthan government to ban these honor killings. It has now been sent back by the governor because it is no more required. The reason that they have given is that it related to certain articles, certain section of the IPC Act and the CRPC Act, which are no longer in force now. And also anyway, killing of a person amounts to murder, which is already punishable in the BNS, Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita. Section 103 already criminalizes the killing or the murder. Apart from that, if somebody is hurt for the honorable honor killing, if certain violence not amounting to murder has happened, it is also functionably can be punished under the section 117 voluntarily causing grievous hurt and section 189 unlawful assembly, which are also can be exercised from the Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita. So per se there is not a need for a new law to curb this issue of honor killing is what the government is trying to portray here, and it is rightly so, because the issue is actually social, and taking just the shade of legislation to showcase that we have done enough does not make sense. The social issue must be targeted through social means only. It is an issue that has been persistent in the past decades. It has reflected in real scenario as well as in real scenario. Various movies have been created on this issue of honor killing. If you remember Anushka Sharma's very famous movie NS10, NS10 is basically a national highway that used to pass from Haryana, because Haryana was a state that was most notoriously in news for the honor killing. But let me assure you that it is not just one state, it is a country-wide phenomena. It is not just a country-wide phenomena, it is a global phenomena, mostly seen in all the feudalistic societies of the world. We have been seeing the incident of Indians being killed, for example, Manoj and Babli. It was a couple who had actually married within their Gotra. So apparently it is said that one of the Khap Panchayat had ordered for their killing, although that has not been proved. But then Nitish Katara murder, he was a person who was a citizen of Delhi, who was residing in the capital of Delhi, and he was murdered by the family men of the accused of the girl with whom he had a romantic relationship with. Not just in India, but also across the world. In fact, in Pakistan also, we had a person called, a woman called Miss Kandil Baluch. She was killed by her own brother, because apparently she had violated the honor of the family, because she created certain TikTok videos which was not appreciable by her family as well as the community. So he actually killed her. And Pakistan being Pakistan, the brother was also even acquitted after this honor killing. So this is a global phenomena, but it violates certain very principle of fundamental right, which was highlighted by the Supreme Court also in the 2018 case, which came to be known as the Shafin Jahan versus K.M. Ashokan. The more famous name, if you would recall, is the Hadia case. It was basically this woman who converted to Islam. She was daughter of Mr. K.M. Ashokan. She married Mr. Shafin Jahan. She converted to Islam, and the person moved to Supreme Court seeking her right over her daughter, that she cannot convert to another religion, she cannot marry outside her religion, is what he contended. But Supreme Court actually gave every person the right to choose with whomsoever they want to marry, and this came to be known as the Hadia case on the name of that woman. The official name is Shaheen Jahan versus K.M. Ashokan. Also, after this case, because of rise in violence against honor killing, Supreme Court actually gave up certain guidelines to prevent certain honor killing that would happen. They also wanted a DSP level officer to take cognizance of any such unlawful assembly that is being held, any Khap Panchayat that is seeking to pass certain orders to promote honor killing. They had passed certain guidelines, but it took a lot of time for those guidelines to be implemented. Instead of having a law, we need to understand that it is an issue of right that would evolve by the greater acceptance of liberal views against the women, because it is mostly the women who are targeted under these so-called honor crimes. But there is a major distinction that we need to emphasize here, that although Supreme Court gave Miss Hadia the right to choose, and it is also a fundamental right read to under Article 21, that one has a right to choose their partner with whom they want to marry. But at the same time, Supreme Court has not given any citizen the right to marry. Right to choose is a right, but right to marry is not a right. It is not a fundamental right as per the Supriyo Chakrabarti case, which actually wanted a right to marriage be declared as a fundamental right under Article 21. She wanted it for the same-sex marriages. The Supreme Court actually denied that there is no right to marriage, but still there is a right to choice if the marriage is allowed as per the law. This same-sex marriage is not even allowed as per the law, so there is no fundamental right to marry, is what we need to keep in mind. Moving to the next topic, our Honorable Minister S. Jaishankar ji, Minister of External Affairs, is going to USA to attend the Critical Minerals Ministerial. Why it is important? It is basically a US-led ministerial level international forum on critical minerals that are crucial for today's functioning. We'll discuss their use and the role that India is playing in that field. But first of all, what is this ministerial all about? It is basically launched by US Department of Energy. It is not a UN-led initiative. It is not a multilateral initiative. It is an initiative launched by USA, although it has certain countries as a partner. What is its nature? It is a non-treaty based organization. That means it's a voluntary cooperation platform. Its decisions are not binding on any of the members. Objective is that it wants to secure a reliable, diversified and resilient supply chain of critical minerals. Because these critical minerals are geographically constrained in their location, most of them are located in the ABC country, Argentina, Bolivia, Chile, as well as countries like China, which do not have a very cordial relationship either with India or with the USA. So to ensure a resilient supply chain of these critical mineral, these nations, including India, nations like France, nations like Canada, Japan, South Korea, EU countries, they are joining hands to meet under this ministerial meeting in Washington to discuss the issue of critical minerals resilient supply chain, which is crucial for development of clean energy transition, which is crucial for development of defense and strategic technologies, advanced electronics like development of 5G technologies, AI technologies, all of them, the semiconductors that they need for computer processing, all of them are based on the critical minerals availability and a seamless supply of that. What are the critical minerals that they are discussing? Lithium, cobalt, nickel, graphite, other rare earth elements. India has been a leader in this instance because we have on our own launched the India's National Critical Mineral Mission, which was launched in the January 2025. It is a 7 years program from 25 to 31, which is targeted with a corpus of 16,000 crore. What are we targeting? We are targeting in the 7 steps. We want increased domestic production of critical minerals, and we want to have greater supply of critical minerals from abroad. We want recycling of these minerals also, targeting the trade and marketing also, developing and emphasizing on the research and development of these critical minerals, emphasizing the human resource development so that we can manage these critical minerals better, and now developing the effective funding, financing and fiscal initiative for ensuring the resilient supply of this critical mineral. So it is a 7-pronged strategy that is working under the National Critical Mineral Mission scheme. These are also certain facts that are important for our prelims. Ministry of Mines of India has actually classified 30 minerals as a national critical minerals. Out of them, 24 are out of these 30 minerals are regulated by the central government, which are now being mentioned in the MMDR Act of the government. They are critical for all these sources of energy, for example, solar energy, wind energy, electric vehicle, energy storage, all of them are critical. You can have a brief idea of their names so that if a prelims type question comes on the critical minerals or the minor minerals, you should be able to eliminate other options. Moving to the next topic of, can the ED file writ petition before the courts? This is an issue that is related to paper 2 statutory organization, which is Enforcement Directorate, and also the prelims part of writs. What are the various types of writs, over which UPSC has already asked the question earlier also. Now what is the issue right here? The Kerala government had actually constituted a committee on inquiry for investigating the gold smuggling case that happened in Kerala. Enforcement Directorates on its part actually moved the Supreme Court, filing a writ that the state government cannot file, that the state government cannot institute such an inquiry committee. Now the question is whether ED can file a writ petition or not. It moved to the High Court earlier. High Court said that you don't have the power. Now the issue has moved to the Supreme Court, and they would now decide whether the ED would have the power or not. Why is such a concern? Because Enforcement Directorate is contended that Enforcement Directorate is merely a department of the union government, and it is not a juristic person or a body corporate which can sue other people, in this case the state government. Why it is so important? Because we see that writ in India is actually given in our constitution. As per B.R. Ambedkar, it is the heart of the constitution as well as the very soul of it. Writ are basically a thing, it is a petition that is filed in the High Courts as well as Supreme Court to get the enforcement of rights. If it is fundamental rights, you can move to both the Supreme Court and the High Court. If it is not a fundamental right, it's just a normal right, then you can only move to the High Court and not the Supreme Court in that instance. So this is writ for you. In our constitution, they have basically mentioned 5 kinds of writ: prohibition, mandamus, certiorari, quo warranto, habeas corpus. What are these different kinds of writ and what is their impact, we will discuss. But let's first discuss briefly about ED, which is Enforcement Directorate. It is basically a statutory organization, as has been contended in this petition as well. It was actually named in 1957. It was named as Enforcement Directorate, but its history dates back to that time period also. It is a statutory organization which was created under this FEMA Act of 1999. Objective is that it is implementing 3 basic legislation: the FEMA Act of 1999, the PMLA Act of Prevention of Money Laundering Act of 2002, as well as the Fugitive Economic Offenders Act of 2018. It is coming under the nodal Ministry of Finance and not the Ministry of Home Affairs, and that is what something we would keep in mind. Now coming to the 5 type of writs that we just named, what is their basic difference? Habeas corpus means that to have the body. Habeas corpus, corpus means body, habeas means to have it. So person, if somebody has been taken into detention by the police, to know whether that person is alive or not, where he located, one could file a habeas corpus plea. It was filed in 1976 also, when emergency was in place. So it became a very famous case known as habeas corpus case or ADM Jabalpur case. What is against whom it can be filed? It can of course be filed against public and private, but it cannot be filed when there the lawful detention is done, when there is a legal mechanism for detaining certain person. For example, under the UAPA Act. Mandamus means we command. Who command? The courts would command. It can be filed against public official or public bodies. For discretionary duties and private bodies, they are exempt from the mandamus. That means mandamus cannot be filed against the private bodies or the private organization. It cannot be targeting the president or the governor also. So if we come to the previous year question that UPSC has asked, that mandamus will not lie against a private organization unless it is entrusted with a public duty. That is true. Mandamus will not lie against a company even though it is a government company. Yes, because it is a company, it is not a government organization. It is not a public body. It is not doing a public function. So that is also true. Any public-minded person can be a petitioner to move to the court to obtain the writ of quo warranto. Let's see what is quo warranto now. Quo warranto is basically asking that quo warranto, by what authority are you occupying that public office? It is basically related to the public office holder. That office must be substantial office. It should have a pecuniary compensation. That means the office should be yielding you something. It should be giving you something. In this case, locus standi is relaxed. That means anybody who is interested can be filed. No locus standi is required. No ground for filing this writ is required. So any person can file that quo warranto plea. So even this statement is true. Answer would be 1, 2 and 3. Now let's discuss the remaining 2 also. There is a difference between prohibition and certiorari. Prohibition is a writ that is filed in the court only for a preventive basis, that it is done before the act is committed. On the other hand, certiorari is a writ which is filed against a decision of a court that has already taken place. So it is basically a judicial or a quasi-judicial writ which is filed to prevent any authority to exceed their jurisdiction. If they have already exceeded their jurisdiction, if they have already done certain act, then the curative petition would be filed, which is a certiorari. This is the basic difference between the writs. You must do it very thoroughly because it has already been asked in the prelims 2022. It might be asked in 2026 also because the issue is in news. Moving to the last topic of the day, which is 1000 flea Pak region over fear of military raid, which is basically talking about a region called Tirah in Pakistan. It is important from our prelims perspective from the places in news because Pakistan being Pakistan, there are certain issues being going on in Pakistan. One, there is a force fighting between Pakistan and Afghanistan forces because Pakistan military forces is targeting the Pakistani Taliban, which is also supported by the Afghanistani Taliban. The people fearing this military action, they are fleeing the region of Pakistan, which is in border with the Afghanistan region, which is in the town of Tirah. We'll see its location. The defense minister of Khwaja Mohammad Asif has said that it is not happening. There is no such imminent plan of fighting, but the provincial government is actually not believing them, and they say that it is imminent. So there is a divergence between the opinion of them, but the internal politics of that country doesn't matter to us. What matters to us is the location. In the previous year question, UPSC has already asked about the Radcliffe Committee, which was related to the India-Pakistan boundary line. This location of Tirah is actually located on the Durand line. Radcliffe line is the line that separates India and Pakistan. Durand line, on the other hand, is the line that separates Afghanistan and Pakistan. So it would become very important for us to know where this thing is happening. This is the Durand line for you, which is dividing Afghanistan and Pakistan territory. While the Radcliffe Committee was formed in 1947 after to take effect of the partition, this was a pre-partition treaty which happened in 1890s after the Anglo-Afghan wars. Now what is this Tirah? Tirah is basically a valley in the Khyber Pakhtunkhwa district of Khyber Pakhtunkhwa province of Pakistan, which is located near the Khyber Pass. Khyber Pass, which is located somewhere here, which has been the major entry points for invaders to India. From Muhammad Ghori to Muhammad Ghaznavi, all of them entered India majorly through this Khyber Pass because it is providing them a mountain. It is basically providing them an access across these high mountains. This is Tirah Valley for you. UPSC has a habit of asking region which are in conflict in news. They asked one time Swat Valley, which is also a valley located in this very province of Khyber Pakhtunkhwa in Pakistan. So the answer of this was not Iraq but Pakistan. They might ask about the Tirah Valley, which is now in news. Also remember from our prelims perspective that India also shares a land border with Afghanistan, although the map would not be very clear to you, because there is a Wakhan corridor that separates Afghanistan from Pakistan, that separates India from Afghanistan. This Wakhan corridor is actually a region in Afghanistan. Because this region of India is under the occupation of Pakistan, it is in the POK part of Pakistan, but technically India does share a border with Afghanistan through this Wakhan corridor, which is a very narrow strip, which is under the deep permafrost of Himalayan freezing ice caps. It is not very accessible, there is no connectivity there, but technically yes, we do share this Wakhan corridor. This was it in this session of Analyst. Keep reading, best of luck.